Om Sadashivasamarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavad Padam Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Krito Vande Bhagavanto Punah Punaha Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshina Murtaye Namaha Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai Om Shanti 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 Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Dayakaram Dayakaram Dantam Dharma Pravartakam Pranamami Dayanandam Madacharya Varam Param Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. So we are seeing the verses in the Pañcadaśī that talk about the relationship of the Vyashti and Samashti. Samashti is the whole, the total. Vyashti is the individual. There is always a connection between individual and total at all levels. And we saw even on the level of Maya and Avidya, Brahman manifest in a certain way takes on the role of Ishvara. Brahman manifest in another way takes on the role of Jiva. And here we find also there is a model of creation, and that is what Vidyaranya is introducing here. And it is only a model. So scientists may not may not verify it, but it is a model and it gives some beautiful connections as you study the model. This is only to give reality to what we perceive. Ultimately, there is no creation. In Vedānta, the very creation is seen as mithya. So we shouldn't give too much reality to these models because they're only a way of teaching. So I'm just going to go through. I know many of you yesterday, I discovered you know a lot already, Tattva-bodha and everything. So we're not going to spend too much time on this. But it is very nice to just refresh the connections and see, how the model is unfolded. So he says in the 19th verse, Sattvam Shaif Pañcabhihi
Sattvam Shaif Pañcabhihi
Kramadhindriya Pañcakam
Kramadhindriya Pañcakam
Shrotratvag Akshirasana
Shrotratvag Akshirasana
Grānākhyam upajāyate
Grānākhyam upajāyate.
So we saw this a little yesterday, that the sattva part of all the elements goes to form the jnanendriyas. And these are all orders, and we saw each power, jnanendriyas are the organs of knowledge, that which bring in the data of the external world. And each of these organs is powered by a certain devata, a certain divinity. So very interestingly, all these divinities are actually connected to the power that they exhibit through the organs of knowledge. So here we see also a gradation of the 5 elements we can bring in, because the 5 elements are connected to the 5 organs, and the 5 organs are also connected to the 5 sense objects. Everything gets connected. So the gradation of the elements, we saw in the previous verse that space is first born. There is a section in Taittiriya Upanishad, a very beautiful section which can be chanted as well, because Swamiji often used to say Taittiriya Upanishad is one that can be chanted and memorized. There the Upanishad mantra says Akashat Vayuhu Vayuragnihi Agnirapaha Adbyaf Prithvi Prithivya Oshadayah Oshadibhyonam Annat Purushaha. The order of creation. So Akashat, from the space was born air. From the air was born fire. From the fire was born water. From the water was born the earth. And Prithivi Oshadayaha, from the earth is born all plant life, everything that's needed for sustenance. Oshadibhyo Fannam, so from the Oshadaya, Annam is born, food. And from the food, what is born? Human being, life, Purusha. So this is how the cycle, even, all of this is recycled what? All of recycled elements, elementals. So Akash, the sense powers are also experienced in a 5-fold way. Beautifully, it starts with the most subtle sense power, and the subtlest sense power, but also the subtlest element. Akasha is the subtlest element, which is ether or space, and it is usually connected with sound. So what is the first sense power? The most subtle sense power is Shravanam, is Shrotram, is the hearing. So Shabda, sound, is connected to space. They say sound travels, in ether, sound travels. So here you find the quality of Akasha is what? Sound. And sound has access to how many sense organs? Only one, right? The ears. Nothing else. Eyes cannot pick up sound. So this is how the subtlety means the number of qualities it has. So the more subtle it is, the less qualities it will have. So Akasha has only one, which is sound. And it's connected to the Shrotram, it's connected to the sense organ, sense power of hearing. So Akasha, then Vayu. Vayu is, what is the quality that Vayu brings? Air brings touch. Because you can feel the wind on your skin, but it borrows the previous element's quality. So it is a little grosser. It borrows the sound from Akasha. So you can hear the wind howling. You can actually hear wind when it is very strong wind. You can hear the wind. It is available for now skin and the organ of touch and the organ of hearing. So this is why the gradation comes. What is the next in the gradation? Agnihi. So Agnihi borrows the qualities from space. You can hear fire, crackling. When we were doing the fire ceremony, you can hear the fire here also. You can hear the fire. It borrows the sound, quality of sound from space. So space inheres fire. That's why Upanishad says Akashat, from space is born air, from air is born fire, because each of the elements are contained in the other in some measure. So the fire has sound. From the Akasha, it also has touch. If you touch fire, you get burnt. But it brings in its own quality. What is that? Form and color. So fire becomes the third element in this gradation. It has more qualities, so it is a grosser element, manifestation. So it is available now for 3 sense organs. You can see that Akasha, ether, only one sense organ, hearing. The air is available for 2, for touch and for hearing. Fire is available for 3. What is that? The hearing power, it is available for the touching power, and it is also brought in another sense organ, sight. First, that's why fire is one of the most important elements in Vedic culture. It is the first element that comes into sight, form and color. First element that we can perceive with our eyes. Eyes are very important sense powers, and this Agni is the transporter of the offerings to the unseen forces, the unseen gods, so the rest of the elements. So own property of Agni, and it borrows 2, and Apaha is the 4th in the gradation. Apaha here is water. Water has what? It has sound from Akasha. You can touch water. It has touch from Vayu, from air. It has form and color from, although it is colorless, pure water is colorless, but if you put it with something, then it picks up the color. But it has form from Agni, and it has its own quality that it adds. What is that? Taste. That's why water is, saliva is there, so we can taste things as well. So water is connected to taste. So it is the next in the gradation, and Prithvi is the grossest, considered the grossest of all elements, that is the earth. It has all 5 qualities, and it's available for all the 5 sense organs. It brings in the qualities of the other elements, and it also brings in its own quality. What is that? Smell. Water you can't smell. Generally pure water is odorless. So water is not available for smell. But earth, when you pick up some earth, try it today, just pick, it has its own distinct smell. And it's available for touch, it is available for the sight, it is available for all the other sense organs. So Prithvi is the grossest of all the Prithvi is the grossest of all the elements because it is available for all the 5 sense organs. So this is how this gradation and connection of the elements to the sense objects and sense organs is given in the Shastra. And we're still talking on the subtle level. When we talk about the powers, we talk about subtlety. The powers always are in the subtle body. We'll see what the subtle body is next. But there is a process of grossification. I think he brings it in a little here. The subtle elements become gross elements. Like the subtle power behind the sense organs become perceptible when the objects are received as data. So that is called a process of Pañcikaranam. That's also quite elaborately discussed. Quarter of this element plus 1/8 of that element. You have a lot of mathematics. Some of the verses are going to go into that. We won't go into maths too much, but we take it as a model. It's just interesting. So now in the next verse, he talks about the star of the show, the star of our lives. What is the star of our lives? The Sukshma Sharira, where ignorance is and where knowledge also takes place. So that is why it's the star. He says here, Tairantah karanam sarvaihi.
Tairantah karanam sarvaihi.
Vritti bhedena tadvida.
Vritti bhedena tadvida.
Mano vimarsha rupam syat.
Mano vimarsha rupam syat.
Buddhisyat nishchayatmika.
Buddhisya nishchayatmika.
So now, individually, we saw individually the sattvic parts of the elements give rise to the jnanendriyas. But what about the collective sattva guna? Sattva guna collectively from all the elements gives rise to the, he says here, taihi sarvehi, all the sattva portions put together gives rise to the antah karanam. Antaha means inner, Karana means instrument. Mind is the inner instrument. And in English you translate very loosely as mind, but this contains a lot more. You'll see the Sanskrit or the Vedic understanding of mind is much more elaborate than simply the faculty of thinking. He says, Antah-karanam. Another beautiful thing to understand when you hear that word, Antah-karanam, immediately what should you think? What should you realize? You should realize that it is a mere instrument. Antak, it's an inner instrument. What does that mean? Are you the instrument? You are not the instrument because you are the wielder of the instrument. If the mind is inner instrument, you are the wielder of that instrument. And that is an important point because the main identification for the individual happens on this level. The identification with this antah-karana. So he says here, he takes antah-karana here by differences of its functions. Vritti bhedena. Here vritti means functions. The antah-karana is divided by different functions. And it is twofold. So here he talks about he's talking about only the thinking faculty of the antah-karanam. And he's, again in this model, he divides the thinking faculty into two. He says, Mano vimarsha rupam. Tat duvidha. It is two things. Mano vimarsha rupam means the manaha aspect of thinking. The thoughts that vimarsha means doubt creating. They create. We see another, in Tattva-bodha we've seen the definition of mind is what? Sankalpa vikalpatmakam manaha. Sankalpa means, I lock the door. Sankalpa, I lock the door. Suddenly thought comes, did I lock the door? I lock the door. Did I lock the door? I lock the door. That is called manaha. Whenever there is this, definiteness, doubt, that manaha aspect of thought has come. So this is, actually most of our lives we live in this manaha. And when we talk about moksha, is it for stula shariram? No, because stula shariram is inert, belongs to Jagat. Is it for the sense organs? No, it is not for sense organs. Poor things. They get bashed for bringing in only data. It is the manaha that translates the data and acts upon the data. This manaha always, the doubting one, the one that also creates self-doubt. The manaha aspect of our minds, thinking, is what creates also self-doubt. I doubt myself constantly. It is, what is it telling me? Did I do the right thing? Did I not do the right thing? All of that is what manaha. So manaha, this is our main battle in life. I would say it is the human battle. It is with manaha, the internal battle with manaha. But then you have he said dvivida, so what is the other thing? He splits the mind, the thinking into buddhihi nishchayatmika. Nishchayatmika antah-karana vrittihi. There's another definition of buddhi, which means the thoughts of definiteness, not doubting. You're very clear, thought of clarity. So it is a firm, ascertainment. The buddhi is firm. But don't always think buddhi is right. It can be firm, wrong knowledge as well. Sometimes we're very firm with some thought. We think we're very clear and it could be erroneous. So buddhi also can take us for a ride at times, So we have to be very discerning here, even discerning our thought. And what discerns the buddhi thought? Again, he has not included it here. There is one thought that witnesses the buddhi thoughts and the manaha thoughts. And that thought is the ahankara, the I thought. Without the I, can you recognize what is happening in the manaha? No, you cannot. Without the I, can you recognize where your clarity is or your lack of clarity? You cannot. It is the I that recognizes the other thoughts. So he doesn't say that here. But he is given two roles for the thinking faculty. Manas, which is the weighing options, the desires, the emotional you, all of this is included in manaha. And buddhi is the deciding factor. There is a very beautiful verse in the Lalita Sahasranama. It is a chant, 1,000 names for the goddess. Icha Shakti, Jnana Shakti, Kriya Shakti Swarupini. There's one of her names, Icha, she's in the form of Icha Shakti. Icha means the power of desire. And this Manaha is that power of desire. So even, in our Vedic culture, desire is manifest as a goddess. The Shakti, the power of desire, is actually, it's a divine gift to have that power to desire, Icha Shakti. Problem is, our desires are not directed in the right direction. We have the power, nothing wrong with the power. If we use the power well, we can do so much, and we can also learn to grow if we use the power in the right direction. But problem is, we don't know how to use our Icha Shakti. So this is the Manaha. Manaha is your psychology, your emotions, and as I said, it keeps on changing. Nature of Manaha is constant shifting. Swamiji used to say, if you see a monkey sitting quietly in a place and meditating, is it a normal monkey? No. Because nature of monkey is what? It is jump around. That's why sometimes they say monkey mind. The minds are also like monkeys. 1 minute this thought, 1 minute that thought, and there's nothing wrong with it. So number one takeaway from this understanding of the model of our Antavkarna is what? If your mind jumps around everywhere, you are totally normal. You should breathe a sigh of relief. I've got a normal Manaha thing. I am so happy, it's jumping around. But bringing it back, that is called meditation. The very act, Krishna says in Gita, people think, meditation, I should sit and mind become quiet. Does anybody's mind become quiet when sitting? No. Maybe quieter, but maybe noisier. Some people, when they sit quietly, the mind becomes even more noisy. So the meditation, Krishna says, is bringing back the mind every time it goes out. That very act of meditation is actually bringing back the mind. So when you're meditating, when you keep returning the mind to a object of meditation, that's why he takes importance of an object when you first start meditation. Like when we do guided meditation, the object of meditation is what? Sound. You're hearing the voice. So there is still an object because the focus goes to the voice. So anyway, this is the Manaha. It has the nature of vacillation, oscillation. Oscillation, vacillation. Up and down like that. And mind will have emotions. The nature of the mind, as I said, mood is mind. Mood, sometimes the states of mind will be like very, very peaceful, very happy because Sattva Guna predominant. When Sattva Guna becomes predominant in you, your mind will be more content, more peaceful. But when Rajas comes, you can't, as much as you want to sit still, what happens? Thoughts keep driving you out. So what do you do in those times when you cannot just have a quiet, peaceful mind? Sometimes when I cannot manage the mind and I may have to go into some activity like even jogging, exercise, all of this is very good to manage the thoughts. If it's a tamasic vritti, if the mind becomes very low, dejected, sad, even they prescribe now exercise for people who are depressed. Why? Because it gets the thoughts going. You have to move remember, you cannot go tamas to sattva. You have to move the tamasic mind to rajas first. Then the rajas mind can be moved to sattva. We cannot jump gunas. So everything has to go via rajas. So here it is important to see the mind has its states. First of all, we accept the states are always changing. And then I see what state do I want to cultivate more in my life. What state do I like to be more? Some people enjoy rajas. So, they enjoy that type of drive. They enjoy the ambition. They enjoy doing things. But when you come to Vedanta, generally we want a quiet, more peaceful mind. That is why Karma Yoga, Krishna talks about, all of this is to make the mind much quieter. So emotions also part of the mind, manaha aspect. And how do I manage if I have very strong emotions? As I said, prayer is a great source of emotional management. Channelize, we have these old Indian movies, I know from my original state, Tamil Nadu, in the 60s and 70s. Lot of the movies there used to be about gods. And you would have all these movies generally discussing people's lives. They'll go through their ups and downs. But whenever they are in trouble, you see the protagonist, the main character in those movies, running straight to the temple. He'll go straight to the temple and he will start a song in the temple. In any Indian movie, divide of song is not Indian. So he'll start, and he'll be crying, praying to the deity, please save me, this has happened. Then the deity will manifest in front of him and say, I will give you this boon. It's very beautiful. It's all very devotional culture. It's been there from thousands of years, that devotional culture. So always the emotions were directed towards the divine. It was a way of release, Whether the deity will manifest in front of you, we don't know that. If it did, we make it a shock and run off. But anything can happen. Remember, in Mithya, anything goes. This is the rule. Anything can happen at any time. Sometimes we notice, actually, we're thinking of something, and in nature we find something responding, or we discover something that has an answer to our questions. It is so beautiful because Ishvara is in and through. Ishvara can manifest through any form in your life. Be aware. When your mind becomes more and more subtle, you will start recognizing this Ishvara's order in everything. You start seeing, you're thinking of something, then suddenly somebody brings you the book. It's exactly what you wanted. Or some song comes on the radio. It's an answer to something that you were really questioning about. These are all Ishvara's manifestations in your life. Or something happens, there's a whole shastra in India written about science in nature. It's called Saguna Shastra. It's very interesting. If a cat crosses from this way, what does it mean? But then again, you could get into, if a cat crosses from right to left, what does it mean? If you see this, what in nature, what's going to be your day? It has, in many cultures, I think they have these signs. But we should not be afraid. That's another thing, people start living in fear. But here, support system for any emotions is recognition of Ishvara in everything. Buddhi, nishchayatmika buddhihi. So buddhihi we know is form of inquiry. It's needed. Buddhi includes ahankara here. He's included the ahankara. You need ahankara to inquire. You need thoughts, inquiring thoughts in your mind. The thoughts of inquiry will only come when the emotions are managed. It's very difficult when the emotional you takes over the rational you. That is why in half the battle in Vedānta is to increase the buddhi me and reduce the manaha me. Manaha means subjectivity. Buddhihi means objectivity. That's why Swamiji keeps talking about subjectivity, objectivity. This is what it means. When I'm looking from the lens of the intellect, generally I'm more objective. When I'm looking from the lens of manaha, the emotions are dragging me all over the place and I keep changing. My mind keeps changing. So cognitive wisdom is buddhihi, and that is very important for Vedanta. We need to increase that more. How do we increase it? Again, through this guided meditations, worshipful life, living a prayerful life, seeing more of Ishvara and reducing that impact of the manaha, the you, seeing the order in everything, in yourself, in your psychology, in other psychology. When you start seeing these orders pervading everything and everyone, it is beautiful because you learn to surrender more and more to the moment. You learn to just be and witness what is in this moment. So this is the antahkarana, he says, the aspect of thinking from which is in the Sukshma Sharira, then he says, Rajom Shaif Panchabhishtesham
Rajom Shaif Panchabhishtesham
Rajom Shaif Panchabhishtesham
Rajom Shaif Panchabhishtesham
Kramat Karmendriyani tu
Kramat Karmendriyani tu Kramat Karmendriyani tu
Vakpani Padapayupasta
Vakpani Padapayupasta
Vakpani Padapayupasta Abhidanani Jagnire
Abhidanani Jagnire Abhidanani Jagnire.
Let's try the whole verse together.
Rajom
Shaif Panchabhishtesham Kramat Karmendriyani tu Vakpani Padapayupastha Abhidanani Jagnire. So, Rajas Amshaihi Panchabhihi Tesham. What comes from the Rajas aspect now? So we've discussed Sattva. Sattva aspect of the elements gives rise five elements give rise to the 5 sense organs, right? Sense organs you can see. And the 5 here Rajas now, the Rajas part of the 5 elements gives rise, he says, to the Karmendriyas, the 5 organs of action. Kramat, again successively. What are these? These are called Karmendriyani because they help you to do action. So the Jnanendriyani are the entrance gates. The data entry is the Jnanendriyani and the Karmendriyani are the exit gates. The Karmendriyani is how you respond to the data. So the body is built like that. Data is brought in through the senses and how you respond to the data, your arms, legs, the body is built for your response. So beautifully, what are these? They are Vak, number 1. This one has I always say, always remember, Vak, the tongue has a huge role in our life. 2, it's included in Karmendriyas and Jnanendriyas. Vak is included in the organs of knowledge because it brings in taste. And it's included in the organs of action because it talks. Mm-hmm. So that's why, in many of the Vedic prayers, you find tongue is very much used as an example of sense management. Mm-hmm. Usually tongue is the number 1 sense, that is managed for talk. Mm-hmm. So in many places, they will practice maunam, like in ashrams, you'll have 1 day of silence, or they will do some kind of tapas like that, austerity, to manage the tongue. Taste also, fasting is to manage taste. So this is just to inform about the prayers. Many of the prayers you'll see in Vedic culture. Vak is tongue. Then you have Pani Pada, hands and feet. Pada, feet, Pani are hands. So these are all included in Karmendriyas. And Payu, Upasta, organs of excretion, organs of procreation. These are all the Karmendriyas. And he says they came into being. So these are the organs of output, as I said. The Jnanendriyas are the organs of input. Again, the arms, the power invested in the arms and the legs comes from where? It comes from the Sukshma Sharira. These are just the physical manifestations of the power that is there. So this is, beautiful to see. When you lose a body part, sometimes, they have these prosthetic body parts. How do you still manage to move if the power is no longer there? The prosthetic body part can still be moved, right? How do you move? Because the power is still there, but the part is missing. So we can still use the arm even if it is a prosthetic arm or prosthetic leg, because power sometimes doesn't go. Power doesn't go. So here I just wanted to go through some of the devatas, because out of interest for these presiding deities of the organs of action. So who is the presiding deity of the tongue? And this is also interesting because in India many people they take to a certain practice to propitiate this deity. So this deity is Agni. We even have Agni is fire. So fire is the presiding deity of speech. Here in the Karmendriya, speech. So speech, sometimes you say the very heated talk, very fiery talk, like that. So speech is fire, the deity, and many people, Swamis in particular, people who chant a lot, they have a habit of feeding Agni to increase their oratory powers or their chanting powers. What feeds Agni? Ghee. So some of them drink a lot of ghee. I've seen Swamis, every morning one Swami will take like half a tumbler of ghee. But his voice was so loud. Such a, he didn't need a mic or anything. Take a lot of ghee to feed Agni. So this is it's very interesting. Presiding deity of tongue is fire. So whatever, if you want to have a loud talk or you want to speak louder, try and propitiate that deity through foods that increase the Agni. And hastayor indraha. Indra is the presiding deity of the hands and arms, because he is the god of all the gods. Indra is the god of all the other devatas, and he is the lord of muscle power. He is the lord of strength. So he is given the deityship over the organs of this karmendriyas of strength. Then padayor Vishnu, who resides in my feet? Vishnu. Who would imagine Vishnu is in the feet, right? Sarva Vyapi iti Vishnuhu. Actually, the word Vishnu in Sanskrit means the one who is all pervasive. Sarva Vyapi. But there's a particular story associated with this, why Vishnu has been given the presiding deityship over feet. Because he took an avatar once as a dwarf. I don't know any of you know this dwarf avatar story. A very interesting story. Because usually the gods, when they're overpowered, there's always this war between the demons and the gods. I think in many mythological stories it's like that. Here, there was a particular demon. He was a Rakshasa, and he had conquered all the worlds. So he had a lot of the power, and all the gods were subdued. They had no power. They could not do anything. So usually when they are feeling powerless, they go and run to the other gods, the higher gods. So Indra goes running to Vishnu and says, please help. So Vishnu is the one who takes avatara. So he comes in certain incarnations throughout time in Hinduism. And he takes an incarnation of a dwarf. And he goes to that emperor who's, got a huge ego, ruling all the worlds. He goes to the emperor, and because he's a Brahmin, he comes as a very poor Brahmin. Even the Rakshasas, the demons, followed certain rituals and certain procedures. So the emperor asked, what do you want? Because they're meant to give some gift to people who come like that, Brahmins. So this little dwarf avatara, incarnation, says, I only want 3 strides of land. I want 3 strides of land. So all the court starts laughing. Said, 3 strides of land, this tiny thing wants 3. Okay, please take. You can have 3 strides of land. So as soon as he offered the boon, then Vishnu showed himself. He took his cosmic form, and with the first stride he covered the earth. Second stride he covered all the worlds. And the third stride he had nowhere to put his foot. By that time, this Rakshasa, he realized, this is not an ordinary being. So very beautifully we use this, and it's a celebration. In Kerala especially, they celebrate it. Bali, his name, that emperor, he gives his head. So he says, put your foot on my head, because I want my ego and this pride and arrogance to go. So it's a lesson. Vishnu gives a lesson, and that that Rakshasa, even if he was demonic, he recognizes the power of Ishvara. So he gives his head as for the third stride. That's why the presiding deities, if you want to run fast, if you want to accomplish a lot with your feet, Vishnu is the deity to worship for the feet. And Payo Mrityuhu, the deity of the evacuation, organs of evacuation, is Yama, so Lord of Death. So death is always, getting stuff out, clearing out. We have lots of deaths throughout our life, right? A lot of changes of state, lot of changes. And so Payu Mrityuhu and Upastaya Prajapatihi. Who is the Lord of procreation? The one Prajapatihi, Lord of creation, is given the deityship of procreation because creative power is there. So this is how the organs, karmendriyas, are born. Just wanted to refresh how the deities are linked to the power behind the organs as well. Then he goes on to say what the collective rajas of all the elements, what do they produce? Tehi sarve sahitaif pranaha. Or we can say Te sarve sahitaif pranaha.
Te sarve sahitaif pranaha.
Vritti bhedat sa panchadha.
Vritti bhedat sa panchadha.
Pranopanas samanascha.
Pranopanas samanascha.
Udanavyanauchate punaha.
Udanavyanauchate punaha.
Together, whole thing. Te sarve sahitaif pranaha. Vritti bhedat sa panchadha. Pranopanas samanascha. Udanavyanauchate punaha. So now he brings in Taihi sarvehi sahitaihi. All together with all the parts, the pranaha, the vital forces, the vital airs, the pranaha. Prana is given as a name of the collective 5 vital forces. It is also given pranaha for one of, inhalation, inspiration as well. Vritti Vedat, because of different functions, they are also panchada, 5-fold. This is what we chant every day when we offer the food. We're offering to the 5 vital airs. When we say prana, yasvaha, we're offering to the collective prana. So this tiny thing that fuels our prana, we are offering to the collective. That is what we do when we do the Naivedyam process. So these vital forces, prana, they arise 5-fold because of vritti bheda, differences. And what are these? The first is, so just to, again, these, all of these you will know because this is all Tattva Bodha, beginning thing. But interesting to see what they power. So we'll remember prana, inhalation. Where is this vital force of prana, inhalation? It is said to be in the heart. So this prana resides in the heart and it is responsible for your ability for talking, laughing, singing, dancing, all of this. This vital air is responsible for such things. Fighting, drawing, any kind of activity, this inhalation is responsible for that. Apana is the downward moving breath. Apana, or in its exhalation. And this is the seat of apana is the anus. It is in the anal region, apana, and it's responsible for evacuation, exhalation, and it is it lets food and waste exit the body. It gets rid of it, eliminates everything, food and waste, and even breathing. So breathing the air already circulated, it lets out. Udana is the upward. Udana is an upward moving vital air. Udana actually is, they say, Udana should function only at one point in your life. What is that? To eject you from your physical form. Udana is the prana that ejects us from our physical form. Moving upwards, Udana is said to be stored in the throat area, this chakra. And it's also responsible for sneezing, coughing, any kind of involuntary action that kind of suddenly you want to get rid of something, vomiting, all of this is Udana. Samana is responsible for your digestion. So it is in the navel area and it assimilates the food that has been taken in. So Samana. So Samana, yes, Swaha. That digestive power is Samana. And Vyana is circulation. So Vyana, the circulation, is in all the joints that helps the body function. So this Vyana is the fifth prana, and this is born of the Rajas of all the elements. You can see Rajas needs activity. Rajas needs that power. Prana gives the vital airs because of the Rajas. And what powers prana? What powers our prana? When prana is less, when we're feeling tired, when we're feeling exhausted, what is the best thing to do? That's why we say, I don't know about in yoga or other things, but in Vedānta we say drink lots of water, because that is how prana, water as an element, increases the rajas. It increases the ability for karmendriyas to function. So water becomes important for that. So next he goes into the full sukshma shariram. Let us see what he brings here. Now the power, he says, buddhi karmendriya prana,
buddhi karmendriya prana,
panchakair manasadhiya,
panchakair manasadhiya,
shariram saptadashabhihi,
shariram saptadashabhihi,
sukshmam tallingamuchyate,
sukshmam tallingamuchyate.
Can say the whole thing.
Buddhi karmendriya prana, panchakair manasadhiya, shariram saptadashabhihi, sukshmam tallingamuchyate.
So now he just tells us this is the sukshma sharira. He calls the sukshma sharira lingam. Remember, we've seen this lingam before. Shariram saptadashabhihi sukshmam tallingam uchyate. Saptadashabhihi means 17 parts. So here is a 17-part model. Sometimes there's a 19-part model of the subtle body. 17 parts is what? 5 now. 5 jnanendriyas, organs of knowledge. 5 karmendriyas, organs of activity. 1 manaha aspect, so 5 pranas we can include, so 15. And 1 manaha aspect and buddhi, 17 parts. So this is called he says, the sukshma shariram. Why is it called linga shariram? That's also beautiful to know. Linga, remember I explained, lingate anena iti lingam. Lingate anena iti means that which points to something else is a lingam. It is a starting point, but it actually indicates something else. So linga shariram, it's called, the subtle body is called linga shariram because what does it point out to? Points out to manifest consciousness. It points out to the manifestation of consciousness. Why does that help me to know that? Because without this shariram and linga shariram, the subtle body cannot be without the physical body. You can see how important now subtle body in the physical body is required for self-discovery. We cannot recognize the self without the medium that we are given. So that is why we have to take care of this. It is given to us for self-recognition, to recognize our true nature. So Sukshma Shariram, Linga Shariram reveals the nature of consciousness. We needed to reveal our true nature. And it is, if you another example I was thinking of, in the old times, we used to have these light bulbs with the filament. I don't know, now it's all modern. But you have a filament in the light bulb, and there are different wattages, 40 watt, 10 watt, 60 watt, 100 watt. And these light bulbs, these filaments, what did they do? When current is passed through the bulb, filament makes the light bulb glow. Sukshma Shariram is just like the filament. So the actual shape of the light bulb, everything is the Stula Shariram. But for the gross body to get illumined, you need the filament. Current is always passing through. It's a very good example for consciousness, always there. Current, the switch may be on, current may be flowing through, but if the filament is no longer there, can the bulb shine? No. And when it blows, that's it, bulb is gone, right? Same like us, we're like all light bulbs. Some people are 5 watt light bulbs, some people are 60 watt, some people are 100 watt, some people 500 watt, but same current flows through all bulbs. And the filaments vary, that is the quality of Sukshma. So Sukshma determines how much current can manifest through that particular Stula. But it doesn't make a difference because current is the same. If you recognize I'm the current, does the wattage bother you? It does not. So it is like here, the Linga, Sharira, it points to the current of consciousness. Without the filament lighting up, the bulb cannot ask, oh, where is my source of light? How do I light up? The bulb doing inquiry will find out. Oh, there's current. Current is all there is. The same current is passing through every bulb. There is only one current. So this is what he says here, that Linga Shariram, he's using that word, very beautiful substitute for subtle body, because Linga always means it points to something else. And in this case, it points to your true nature. The physical body and the subtle body are needed for your self-discovery. That is the only reason they are given. So with that, we will see more about the names. Again, I'm going through a bit faster because this is all Tattva-bodha baby things for you. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha Sarve Santu Niramayaha Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhaved Asato Ma Satgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om